Welcome to the dark. I collect stories people don't want to tell. Some are real. Some should have stayed hidden.
We tend to think of history as a permanent record, but in Blackwater County, history is a physical structure that only materializes when the weather gets bad enough. County maps list Crow's Crossing as destroyed following a massive flood in 1958. Yet, despite being wiped from the public record, it reliably and persistently reappears during severe meteorological events. The crossing operates on a strict, predictable logic. If you drive a vehicle across its span once, you will emerge exactly 24 hours in the past. If you make a return trip, you anchor that specific past into the present timeline. Crow's Crossing functions as a physical, unauthorized temporal gateway, a machine bound by a rigid operating mechanism that ignores its status as local folklore. This mechanism enforces a severe penalty for any alteration. Years ago, a local farmer crossed the bridge to warn his younger self about a barn fire. He saved the barn, but the next morning, every photograph of his daughter began to fade. He suffered a complete retroactive biological erasure of his lineage. Another traveler used the anomaly to stop a robbery. The intervention worked perfectly. Months later, he discovered nobody remembered his school graduation. His childhood was unspooling, piece by piece, deleting his personal history to pay for the intervention. This diagram illustrates the concept of the historical tax. Whenever you make a localized intervention, a secondary branch off the main timeline, you create a vacuum. The new branch violently loops backward, actively consuming the user's origin points. The anomaly demands payment by targeting foundational memories or biological connections. The bridge never offers a free rewrite of history. It operates on a merciless system of equivalent exchange, demanding a devastating payment for every alteration. These survival protocols exist as strict, non-negotiable rules, despite their reputation as local folklore. In Blackwater County, they are known simply as the 7 Rules of Crow's Crossing. The physical constraints are absolute. You must cross during a specific temporal window, never before midnight and never after sunrise. You must never stop your vehicle halfway across. Most importantly, you must never look down into the water beneath the bridge. The safety protocols regarding interaction are even stricter. You must maintain absolute silence regarding your identity if you speak to anyone in yesterday, and if there is someone waiting on the bridge, you must turn around. You are mandated to never attempt a return journey alone. This brings us to a historian named Rachel Brooks. Years earlier, her younger brother drowned. Obsessed with the anomaly's mechanics, Rachel decided to weaponize the crossing. She intended to reverse a fatal event. Rachel's motivation represents a crucial shift. Until this point, encounters with Crow's Crossing were largely accidental and chaotic. Rachel turned the phenomenon into a deliberate, calculated experiment in temporal manipulation. Rachel drove onto the wooden span during a violent October storm. The physical indicators of the shift were immediate. In a fraction of a second, the blinding rain instantly snapped into a perfectly calm, sunlit morning. The calendar on her dashboard rolled backward by 1 day. She quickly located her target subject. Her brother was alive, laughing, complaining about his homework. She adhered perfectly to the 5th protocol, hugging him without disclosing her identity or explaining the impending danger. The initial intervention was flawless. She secretly secured the environment and prevented the accident. The location where he was supposed to drown remained completely empty. There was no funeral. The local environment offered zero resistance to the change. Rachel smiled, believing she had won. We call this the false victory. Early, localized success creates a dangerous illusion of control. It completely blinds the user to the massive systemic correction that is building up just out of sight. That evening, Rachel initiated her return journey to anchor the timeline. But the bridge wasn't empty. A woman holding an umbrella stood in the center. Rachel violated the occupation constraint. She stopped the car instead of turning around. The woman lifted the umbrella, revealing herself as an older, gray-haired iteration of Rachel. The older iteration looked at her and said, "You saved the wrong one." Rachel looked back toward her hometown and saw smoke blanketing the skyline. Sirens were blaring from every direction. By preventing a single drowning, she had triggered an uncontained mass casualty event in the surrounding area. Hundreds had died instead. This geometric scale models the principle of universal balancing. The magnitude of a single saved entity on one side violently displaces mass quantities on the other, forcing hundreds of surrounding nodes into a void to balance the equation. Terrified, Rachel accelerated across the bridge, and in her panic, she failed the final constraint. She looked down into the river. It wasn't reflecting the sky. It reflected thousands of versions of her life, infinite, fragmented timelines of Rachel's crying, smiling, and drowning. The river beneath the wooden span serves as a vast active containment system for discarded timelines and erased existences. Rachel reached the opposite side, arriving in the morning sunlight of the present state. The town appeared calm again. Everything seemed entirely normal, right up until the moment she opened the front door of her own home to face the final, localized correction. Her parents greeted her with polite confusion, asking if they could help her. The family photographs lining the hallway proved why. The frames held only empty backgrounds and inanimate furniture. They had never had a daughter. Rachel's existence had been erased from her own foundational origin point. When Rachel rushed back to the coordinates, Crow's Crossing was gone. Only the river remained, flowing quietly, returning to a dormant state as it waited for the next desperate traveler. Local travelers still report seeing a woman with an umbrella during violent storms, asking which yesterday they are willing to lose. The universe operates on a cold mechanical truth. The past can always be rewritten, but the system relies on equivalent exchange, and it will relentlessly extract a toll far worse than the tragedy you are trying to fix.